You're listening to the Good Talk Josh podcast. This episode is brought to you by Latham Realty Unlimited. Jeff is looking to hire new real estate agent professionals. No experience necessary. If you're driven, if you're fit, if you're ready to change lives, you're ready to change your life, call Jeff and his team. His number is 425-345-4920. And you can check him out on Facebook at facebook.com/Latham Realty Unlimited. I'll go ahead and leave his link in the show notes for this episode. Get a hold of him. It's also brought to you by the Stilly Diner. Stilly Diner is located at 223 North Olympic Avenue in Arlington, Washington. Their number's 360-403-8486. One of my life lessons I learned while wrestling was once you've weighed in, you go out and find that restaurant with the line out in front. The Stilly Diner has a line 15 minutes after they open up their doors. And it's worth staying there for as long as it takes. Last time I was in there, I tried the spinach, mushroom, and feta omelet. Money, this thing was awesome. Oh my God, they know how to cook. And the service is top notch. My coffee cup was never empty. They are nailing it down there at the Stilly Diner, so go check them out. And finally, Patreon. This is a wonderful service that is quick. It's a cheap way to support this show and other artists that are out there developing their dreams. Go check it out at patreon.com/goodtalkjosh. You can pledge $1. If you can afford more, you can pledge more. I appreciate it. And a big shout out Jeremy Hoteri for pledging this last month. I really appreciate it. Newest and latest pledge, so thank you very much. This episode of the podcast, I have a new friend now. I've met him and talked to him before, but this was a fun time. I got to meet and talk with Ben Miller. He's over at DutchRogueCove.com. He's a fly fisherman. He is a fly fisherman painter, and this is one of the best conversations I have about passions. He's an enthusiast and an advocate for fly fishing. We talk about big ideas to solve world hunger and without eating crickets. We hit up extortion using invasive species and creating ultra-clean water. We talk politics. We talk religion. We talk George Carlin. There's a good chance that if you're a sensitive person, you'll get upset at some of the stuff we say. And if we do, I'm sorry. Kinda. But that's the fun part of having these talks, is experiencing what everyone, their thoughts and feelings, and jiving with people. So enjoy this. This is a long one. It's a little over 2 hours. So if you stick with it to the end, I appreciate you, and thank you very much.
So I'm over here right now from Bozeman, Montana. And,
is that where you primarily live now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had a rendezvous in Gold Bar. So then I came up here for the podcast. That's why I wanted it to work on Monday. So
thank you.
Appreciate
awesome. I'm glad it worked out that way, because I have a Facebook group, and I put on there at the beginning, like New Year's Day, I think. It was, hey, these are my goals for what I want to get done, blah, blah, blah. And it's a private group, and there's only a few people in there. And I have, like, recent guests that I allow on the group. And so when I'm interviewing people or I come up with questions, they help me out. And it was Stacey Hoteri. It was like, Ben Miller does this amazing shit on, and then put your thing. And then when I clicked on your website, I went on there and I looked at it, and I was like, I've totally seen these videos on Facebook somehow, somewhere. I've totally seen it. And so then I put out that first contact with you, and then after I did that, and I told Jody about it, and she was like, well, he was at our wedding. Son of a bitch. No, I'm like an idiot. But after looking at, so
before, like, how did you get to start painting with a fly rod?
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah, like, this is something.
Well, a couple different reasons, I guess, is I had this high school teacher, Stacy would know him, Roger Paget, and he says there's two types of teachers. He says, I am a teacher that teaches math, or my father is a mathematician who teaches. And I was teaching at the time, and you know, I was thought about that, and I said, well, am I an artist that teaches? And I always thought I was. You know, teaching's fine, you know, and chatting up the kids and trying to teach them a thing or two, that's great. But at a very young age, I was fly fishing. And I mean, even when I was in second grade, you know, like I would turn all my assignments into fly fishing. It had to be something about fishing.
No shit.
And so I had that, I don't know, just this uncanny weirdness to always be fly fishing. So I was tying flies, you know, I was fishing around here as much as I could. Growing up, it was like a mile down the road. I'd pedal the bike down and just start fishing up the creek. You know, I caught the fish and released them so many times I almost knew exactly.
Oh, I caught Fred.
Yeah, pretty much. And so one day I was talking to my brother on the phone, and my other brother was bugging me to come to Montana, which is fly fishing capital of the world.
Yeah.
I knew being up in Darrington, I pretty much knew what was going to be on my headstone. And then I had that idea, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And it was then pack up all my stuff, and I did a few trial runs with the fly cast, but I didn't really know.
Is that something you developed yourself? You didn't learn that anywhere. That's
no,
something you totally developed.
But understanding art, and I knew that in art, I loved concept. I love the concept behind things, and where you're looking at like some splatter on the wall, and the people are just like, oh, you know, it's just like
Jackson Pollock stuff, and
yeah, it's just like feeling the vibe, and that's why I threw that on there. And now buy it from me. And I was just like, God, everyone's doing that. There's nothing concrete behind it. I mean, let's develop something. I knew that the cast and the fly rod would get those kind of marks, but how do I tie it into fly fishing? And then it was just paint the rivers. Like a river's nothing more than a moving palette of color.
yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. But now, and when we were young, our old man would, like when we're going over a bridge, he'd be like, hey boys, what shape's the river in? And it would determine how we're going to fish it, or if we're going to fish it at all. If it's up, you know, the river's blown out, you know, and then sometimes if there's a little bit of clarity, you know, we would go down and try to catch a fish or two.
Yeah.
So right now it's like promoting fly fishing culture. If you want, I can get into that. I mean, I'm you know, starting to throw a web here, but it's
I like big open concepts. I'm okay with it.
so right now it's I'm saying that fly fishing and painting are the same thing. And how I get that is right now I've got this palette I put on my arm. It's where I mix my colors. I got my paints in my creel, my basket.
Yeah.
And so I'll be looking at the water right next to me there, and I'm working on Lexan, so it's clear. And then there's two paintings, a shiny side and then a matte side. And people, you know, they have different preferences, which is great, but I'll say I'm out there making the same decisions as a fly fisherman. A fly fisherman, when he opens up his box, he's got to make a decision about what color fly and what size. I'm looking at my palette, I got to determine what color and what size of swatch it's going to be. I've got to execute my cast to a certain degree, but the thing is I'm out there and I'm just taking in the river, just like a fly fisherman would. A fly fisherman goes home, caught a fish or not, if he kept it, released it or whatever, but he experienced the same movement as far as casting goes, and the same decisions were made when he was digging into his fly box.
Gotcha.
So I say this painting, what I'm doing here, and fly fishing are exactly the same thing.
So explain to me what's a Lexan?
Lexan is a polycarbon, and it looks like glass. So I'll have to paint the painting backwards. Traditionally, it goes from dark to light, like if you're working with oils or anything, or the old masters. But so you've got a lot of genres coming into this. You have the impressionists outside, and using these very.
So you're not hitting
abstract.
a canvas; you're hitting a piece of glass.
Yeah, essentially, which
Gotcha.
is like a piece of plastic.
Yeah,
clear piece of plastic. So you paint it from light to dark, and then when the dark side's facing you, you then go from dark to light.
Oh.
So there's two paintings, one on the glossy side, and then one on the matte side that's facing you.
Gotcha.
So
that's pretty innovative. Is anyone else doing that?
I heard of one guy over on the Henry's Fork, which is over in Idaho, but he's not anywhere close to the concept that I'm bringing to the table. But, I mean, I don't even know that guy. He's, I heard he works on canvas, and I heard he paints at night.
So this is now your full-time gig, right?
It is, yes.
That's like you're able to make a living and support yourself, and
yeah. Well, it's getting there, and I like to look at it like from where I'm at now to where I was last year.
Yeah,
it's starting to
really
to come
pick up.
around. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, people, and it's interesting. I've sold more of the fly cast painting to folks that never fly fished before in their life.
Well, when I saw it, I like yes, yeah. I'm a fisherman. I put a worm on the end of my bobber and I put it out there, and I have caught a couple trout out of the lake. And but after looking at your website and shit and going, it's beautiful and it's so romantic to look at a painting like that and think, oh, holy fuck, this is really done with a pole.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
a pole and line.
A guy was coming at me one time on the internet, and he's this guy that pen and ink, and this stuff looks really good, but very traditional. And he says, "Why would you paint with a fly rod?" I said, "Why would you fish with one? There are way more effective ways to catch a fish than using a fly rod."
Yeah.
I mean, you could drag the river with a net. You'd have more fish than you knew what to do with. Why does anyone screw around? But it has this following, and it's a culture over there.
Why hunt with a bow?
Exactly. And there's industry built around it. There's lodges. There are tackle shops. There are guides, and there's this whole following for this idea to catch a fish with a fly rod. And the other thing is too, like walking into say a museum. There's this fellow over there that deals in Native American artifacts, and you go in there and you're seeing like cornhusk dolls. You're seeing these old blankets and stuff. But you look at
baskets.
Baskets. Yeah. And you look at that, and that defines an era. That puts an image in your mind of what was going on at that time. But if you look at fly fishing, and as far as the culture goes, we are in a moment right now. I just don't know if it's realized or if this fly fishing culture thing is for real, which I'm going to be promoting till I'm dead, I guess.
Why not, right?
Yeah, and there are people that collect like perfect hardy reels. There are bamboo rods that you can look at, like if they were in a museum, and say, hey, that's what they were fishing with.
Yeah.
And if these, in the short amount of time that we are here, and if I can make a few paintings that can help define that culture or be another part of it, I think that is one of the most important things that art can do.
Are you a better painter or a better fisherman?
Ooh. It's funny. A lot of folks will say that, like, that guy can't catch any fish, so he's just out there painting. Hey, at least I go home with something, right?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I've had my days where I got skunked, but when you're out there on the river and you're just chatting fishermen up and stuff, there's a key. There's a secret. There's a code to them.
When you're out there doing your paintings, and you're doing your jazz.